we've pretty much covered some of the specifics Senator King asked, but you did make the clarification that in the National River designation, it was redesignated to say shall permit hunting and fishing. So if my bill were to pass as written, hunting and fishing if that was the will of the Congress and signed by the President, if it carried that language, it would have to permit. But you're saying it would be the only one, except for the one, Grand Teton, I think, does some hunting for wildlife management. Is that correct?
There are probably several other examples, Senator, but technically there is no national park designation that allows the recreational type of hunting that we're talking about, the sport hunting.
Let me ask you, I just had a meeting with a lot of our outdoorsmen and sportsmen just this Monday, and one of the issues that they asked me in terms of moving forward with this was is there a difference in coordination between the DNR and the National Park Service if it's designated as a national river or as it's designated in the national park? Are there differences there in terms of more regulatory oversight by a park as opposed to a national river? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Senator, there would be some differences, but in the majority, we try to comply with state law and regulation when it comes to hunting and fishing. Mm-hmm. There are certain things that can be different. In the fishing arena, there may be certain parks where we're worried about a certain type of trout being introduced, whatever else, so we might have more restrictions on things like that. But in the hunting realm, we track coordination with our state Fish and Wildlife agencies very, very closely.
So whatever type of hunting is permitted by state law would be what's permitted in a national preserve, say if we made it a preserve.
Usually that would be the case, yes, especially when it designates seasons and bow hunting or whatever. Yes, usually in by far the majority, there's a coordination between state regulation and what we permit, yes.
Okay, so let's go back to the park and preserve concept. Who draws the designated lines for that? Is that done by Congress? Obviously, it would have to be done in conjunction with you all, or how do you do that? Do you do it by GPS, or how has it been done in the past?
Usually there's coordination, and usually with legislation, a map is introduced that shows that.
With the legislation? With
the legislation, and that's usually done in coordination with the Park Service and whoever is introducing the bill. Without knowing all the details, obviously this unbelievably deep gorge, that characteristic, obviously you'd think that you draw that line down the river and then all the uplands and whatever else would be what would be in the preserve. But there would be eventually a mapping exercise that we would undertake on that.
Yeah, we're a pretty hardy bunch, but hunting on a steep slope like that might even be challenging for us as West Virginians. Well, I would like to ask you then to continue working with me and my office and others that are interested in this to help us look at how we could construct something like that. Let me ask you, in your past park and your other park and preserve arrangements like Denali, is the park part contiguous? Is it all contained in one area, or can you have a park area here and then maybe some preserve here and then a park area over there?
A lot of it's in contiguous areas, but it can be generally, again, where those lines are drawn. It doesn't have to be contiguous.
It doesn't. Okay. Let's see. And let me just ask you this. In my opening statement, I remarked on how much an economic impact a national park designation would have. And that's obviously one of the key interests that we have here as West Virginians. Can you quantify that at all? Or how do you see that as it has rolled out through, I don't know how many years you've been there. How many years have you been?
I've been around quite a long time,
okay,
Senator.
So you got a lot of good. If you're invoking Senator Byrd, then I know you've been here for a while.
Congressman Rayholler are talking about 1979 on bills, so we.
Okay.
I am a little bit long of tooth here. I'm sorry, and again, the question.
The economic impacts of a park redesignation.
Well, there's a nationwide report on the impact that in general the National Park Service has in the billions of dollars. I must admit, I'm old school, where I really think that this trend towards taking units into park status doesn't really change that much, but I've been convinced that it does actually carry a certain uptick in people being interested with that park designation rather than a national recreation area designation or whatever else. right now, the Park Service, ever since our centennial, our visitation is just off the charts.
Good.
And so I won't give that full credit to hunting and fishing or that type of thing, but basically our visitation is going. But there's definitely an effect. National Park Service units do draw people
Right.
and do draw economic value
Right.
in
And
the billions of dollars.
In the billions, yeah. I mean, I would say it would be not just within the park, but also the contiguous areas of Fayette and Raleigh and other counties. That are right in that area.
All of the gateway communities benefit from the visitation at the parks. Yes, Senator.
All right. Well, I look forward to working with you. This is something I'm very passionate about, and we have a lot of support. We're talking with everybody here. I've talked with Senator Manchin, and we're working together on this. So I really appreciate your valued service of so many years, but also your willingness to work with us. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.